Hey everybody, this is Gaynor Meilke from the Emotional Home Improvement Project, and today I am talking about the 8 C's of the self, and these are the 8 C's of the internal family system model. And the internal family system model is something that helps you to integrate all the pieces of you so that you become more whole. And I know from my own experience, it has actually helped me a lot overcome some really negative and self-destructive tendencies, thoughts, and behaviors, and in fact, even suicidality. So, I don't say that lightly, and I'm not a therapist. So please, if you're feeling like you need to talk to a professional or you need the crisis hotline, then I will link information about that below. I do advise that if it's a medical emergency that you call 911 and make sure that you have somebody with you. So with that said, I think that the 8 C's are actually something that whether you're in a really dire situation or you can also apply this in just self-development, self-improvement, or even curiosity about yourself. And ironically, that is the first C is curiosity and keeping that alive within yourself, both from a perspective of when things come up for you and you have behavior that you're not wanting to do, or are thinking thoughts that are negative. It's instead of trying to push them away or shaming yourself, you can try to befriend them and be curious about them. And I think that also goes with other people as well. There's a saying that is first seek to understand and then to be understood when you're dealing with other people. So being curious about why somebody is acting the way they are or speaking about something that you may not agree with, instead of automatically trying to shut them down or shut your mind down to being open to hearing what they have to say, you could be curious about why they think that or why they're doing something and just ask them. So that's something that's the first C. So curiosity. And then we've got the compassion. And I think compassion is super important, both self-compassion, which is really having empathy and wanting to help somebody, which is different than just having empathy or sympathy. So sympathy is you can feel bad for somebody. Empathy is you can put yourself into the feelings that they might be having, but compassion takes it to an active level. And it's not only understanding and acknowledging that they feel some way, but it's actually wanting to help them or help yourself too. So having self-compassion is a really important trait. And when you do something that you're not proud of or it didn't go the way that you wanted it to, you can, instead of beating yourself up about it, feel self-compassion and some curiosity and kind of get to the idea of understanding why you're doing something, but then also giving yourself a break, a free pass, if you will, that what's done is done, and we need to look at how you can prevent something similar from happening in the future and then let it go and move on. I know for myself, that's been something that's really, really beneficial. Um, and I'm getting better at it. So these are all projects, right? That's why I called this the Emotional Home Improvement Project, because some people say, oh, I want a partner, not a project, but we're all projects because we never stop growing, learning, and evolving. And I think that's healthy. I think that if we don't have a project within us that we're working on, you know, it's fine to take a break every once in a while and just relax, but we all want to get better, and we're all dealing with multiple things on a daily basis. So even if there's something that you're not unhappy with within yourself, you can work on your relationships as well. So we'll get into that a little bit later in another video. The third C is clarity, and that's being clear about what you want, who you are, and how you're going to get there, and what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what people you want in your life, those that you don't. So that's all around clarity, and I find that for myself, meditating, and when I say meditating, it's really about having time and space to process your thoughts without having them either hijacked by other people or media or distractions. So that is a really important piece of it, is being very focused and intentional on having time to gain clarity. And I think also sometimes going to a retreat or a conference or talking with friends can be helpful. And another tactic is journaling or art, anything where you can get into the flow and then reprocess or process or create new thoughts or ideas is going to be really helpful. Connectedness, and I spoke just a minute ago about gaining clarity by talking to other people. That's part of connectedness. And also being able to connect the dots between your feelings, your thoughts, and then your behaviors as well, and searching within yourself for reasons why you might be acting some way, and what is that coming back to you for? Or if you have some kind of addiction or a distraction technique that you don't like, then you need to connect those dots as well in order to really break free of them as to why am I using this? And I think one of the best um, definitions or thoughts around what an addiction is came from a training that I did not long ago. And it's really an addiction is a very immature way or childish way of trying to deal with often very deep traumatic discomfort. So, something to think about is that we can pick better ways, more adult ways, or use our functional adult to actually deal with our emotions, things that are triggering to us, and also to remember that feelings and emotions and situations don't last forever. And that's a really important point as well. So, connectedness both to ourselves and then to other people as well. The creativity is the next C, which is super important to me. I'm a creator, but also beyond, your traditional art, a business is also creative. Um, writing, anything where you get into that flow state, but also being creative in the way that you approach challenges or your thinking or behavior in yourself. So, instead of taking another piece of cake, you might say, you know what, instead of having two pieces of cake, I'll have one and then go for a walk around the block. And be creative. Maybe you want um, to have a chat with your significant other, but instead of just trying to do it, in the car when you're both tired and going, like coming home from work or picking up kids or whatever it might be. Instead, you decide to change the venue and go to a coffee shop. Just being creative as opposed to being closed-minded or rigid in your thinking is super important. And it allows you to express that part of yourself. Then we've got courage. And I did a training through um, the Star Commonwealth, which trains educators and community members on trauma-informed practices for education in schools and other classrooms and professional therapy organizations. And they used a circle of courage, which is brought in from Native American practices where for them, the circle of courage is where they try to bring people back to when they fall out of their community, whether that's through addiction or, some outside force. And so having the courage to even think about a different way of thinking, being, doing, you need to acknowledge that, but you also need to know that courage is just taking action that you may think that you not may not be able to, but the more that you do it, the more courage you have and the less scary things become. So we'll delve into all of these C's later on, but I just wanted to run through them now so you have them. And confidence, obviously that's something that we're all working on daily. Um, and It's something that in order to be effective in the world, we need to have confidence that we're going to be able to handle what comes next. And the way that I often think about it is no matter what happens, it's going to happen. So, whether I'm afraid or not is really inconsequential because I have to go and do these things, whether I want to or not, sometimes. And so it's really just getting through the mindset of, whether it's, I just don't want to go and meet all these people today and have all these meetings, and I feel kind of overwhelmed, and I'd rather just like read a book or something like that, or not um, go to another Zoom meeting or a networking meeting. But I have the confidence within myself to know that it's going to be okay, and that even having the courage to go and do it is going to build my confidence, because the more I do it, the less scary it becomes and the less onerous, to be honest. I mean, you gain momentum when you do things repetitively, especially when it's something that's getting you along that bridge to better that I talk about as well. And then the last C, it's one of my favorites. It's calm, because I know for a long, 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 decades long time, I never felt calm and I never felt at peace. And I'm feeling more that way now. But I think when you have all of the 8 sides of you, the 8 pieces of self working harmoniously, which is what the internal family system model is all about, it really does help you connect with that sense of calm. One thing that I use also in the book that I've been working on, Perfect Storms and Broken Rainbows, is that in a storm, the calmest place is in the middle. And so, if you've experienced a lot of um, trauma, or, you know, a lot of like chaos, or things that have happened that, you wish that they didn't, and it feels like everything's kind of swirling around, that in fact, the place to look is actually within and in the middle of yourself, because that's where, if you can connect there, you're going to feel more calm. And it might only be for a few minutes or even a few seconds at a time, but again, it's a muscle like anything else. If you really connect with what's underneath all of the chaos, it's amazing. It's actually going to help you gradually over time. Nothing is super quick and easy when it comes to self-development, especially when you have long entrenched negative patterns. But you're going to be able to move that needle a little bit more towards calm. I know I used to wake up for like literally decades with so much anxiety in the morning. And now I find, because I've done a lot of work on myself and I've kind of flattened some of the walls in my mind where I had some things I didn't want to really be thinking about, but I did think through them and I was able to process the emotions. So the walls fell down. I feel so much calmer. Not that I don't get stressed out sometimes, but I don't feel like anxious for no reason, for the most part. And I know that that's because I've made this practice of connecting down through the layers of what is like internal chaos for me into a calm space. And so that is what I would like to leave you with, that eighth C, which is really an important one, that when we practice the other C's and we start seeing that in other people as well, and the world is not here to destroy us. It can be, there can be challenges and there can be, negative things that happen. But if we connect with our most inner selves and also those eight other pieces and really work through them, and we can control what we can control, which is us, and the rest of it will become less um, anxiety producing and less intimidating when we learn uh, how to integrate those feelings into all of ourselves as opposed to compartmentalizing, which is not one of the eight C's. So I hope you found this a useful overview, and I'll be making some shorter videos about each of these C's, and then there's also 5 P's that go along with this as well. So I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.